The radical left has taken over the Democratic Party.
Hello and welcome to Think Progressively, covering politics and all the other chaos life has to offer. This is episode 110, or should I say 110? What's the cool way of saying that?
I say 110.
We're going with 110, recorded on Friday, January 19th from Milwaukee. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jason.
And on today's episode, we are going to discuss in detail the Packers win over the Dallas Cowboys and the game heard around the nation.
Football's still on?
You see, Jason. For teams who did not lose their quarterback horribly due to tragedy.
He's not dead. I mean,
he's got a leg injury. Put him out of his misery. Take him out back.
They sure. I've been an advocate of taking Kirk Cousins out back and shooting him for a long time now.
But on today's episode, we're going to cover the mountain of stupidity we missed while we're gone. But first, the headlines.
Hold on. But first, Joe, you were on another podcast again.
I was. Well, I was on the same podcast, but again.
We might have some new listeners.
Yay! Hello.
And if we do, welcome. You were on the series Inquiries Only podcast again with Thomas Smith.
I was.
Talking again about polarization.
And basically how actually it comes to be from a psychological perspective and how to maybe decrease it a little bit.
And how dare you take shots at Superman, Joe?
What do you... Okay, hold on. We talked about this before. We are now fighting. What do you mean?
You said that Superman is basic and has nothing to offer.
Yes. He is like, okay, as like a narrative standpoint, Superman is the worst written hero of like all time.
Superman is an immigrant story.
Oh my God.
It was created by Jewish writers, and he is meant to be the American immigrant story. That is what he is. And you just have no imagination, or, you know, maybe you're a big Batman fan. You just I really the billionaire who doesn't do anything with all of his money to actually help the city that is immensely in poverty that he lives in. Instead, he spends all his money making suits of armor and gadgets so he goes out at night and beat up the mentally ill. That's your guy.
But it's more exciting to watch.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Up yours, woke moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
So for those of you who may not be absolute political junkies like us, you may not have realized that in the coldness of night, in the hellscape that is Iowa, the first Republican caucus took place. And this is what you may have missed.
They threw everything but the kitchen sink at us. They spent almost $50 million attacking us. No one's faced that much all the way just through Iowa. The media was against us. They were writing our obituary months ago. They even called the election before people even got a chance to vote. But they were just so excited about the fact that they were predicting that we wouldn't be able to get our ticket punched here out of Iowa. But I can tell you, because of your support, in spite of all of that they threw at us, everyone against us, we've got our ticket punched out of Iowa.
I can safely say, tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a two-person race.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Ron DeSantis won the Iowa caucus and Nikki Haley came in a close second?
Well, you got the fact that it was Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, both who lost by about 30 points to Donald Trump. Jason, here's my thing. I get that this is what politicians have to do. I don't know if I could go out to people after a loss that huge and try to act like I still just won like that. I don't think I have the balls to do it.
So let's look at the numbers. Trump got 51% of the vote, the largest victory ever in the Iowa GOP caucus.
That is by a large margin. I think the second was like 10 points.
And I like how some sites are trying to spin it and be like, well, this doesn't mean anything. You know, Ted Cruz won the Iowa caucus in 2016 and Rick Santorum won it in 2008, or 2012. And I think Rick Scott or somebody else won it previously.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is not then. We're not going to get like a surprise and all of a sudden Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis starts picking up every other state as we go along.
Well, and okay, you bring up a good point too, because there is that history of Iowa not choosing the president, especially for the GOP.
Right.
But even like for like the Democratic side as well, you may even remember that Pete Buttigieg won in 2020. He came nowhere to winning.
Right.
Iowa is just not a representative state, and the only reason why people care about Iowa is because they're first. That's literally it.
Well, and even the way they pick their nominees.
Oh, caucuses are
yeah.
stupid.
But there is no chance that Trump does not win the nomination. Yes, he's probably not going to win New Hampshire just because of the makeup there and the fact that there's going to be a lot of Democrats voting in the Republican primary there, but he's still going to easily win the nomination. Next, we had Ron DeSantis had his ticket punched.
What a spin.
They called the election before voting even began, and they were right. Ron DeSantis got 21.2% of the vote. Basically, this enables him to not suspend his campaign.
That's what he was talking when saying he got his ticket punched out.
Right. I didn't come in third to Nikki Haley,
right,
so I can stay in the race.
And I love the fact that, like,
I still have no chance.
Everyone said we had no chance of winning. They thought we were all
Right.
dead. And you know what?
They were right.
They were right. But we're going on anyway.
And the media and everybody in the crowd, boo, boo, media.
Well, it's like, and everyone like
That's the
was
Republican
against
base.
us. What kind of persecution complex does Ron DeSantis have to have where just general pollsters and other Republicans
Right. Facts.
are just all out to get you?
Like, you are going to lose.
Persecution! Persecution! How dare you?
And Nikki Haley came in third, 19.1%. Got to admire her claiming that the results meant it was now a two-person race when she came in third.
There was a time where they wrote the speech expecting her to take second place, and they chose to not change that speech.
We're just going to leave that part
We
in
are
there.
going through with it.
It's fine. And then in fourth was Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, sorry, rhymes with fake. At 7.7%, he did suspend his campaign and endorse Donald Trump. He held more events and campaign stops in Iowa than any other candidate.
I think it was almost any other candidate put together though. Like he
It was a lot.
ton.
And I didn't get any of the clips, but there's tons of video of people asking him and his wife about his immigration status, what religion he belongs to. Everyone thinks he's a Muslim. And there was even someone who said that he likes Vivek, but he can't vote for him because he still hasn't gotten over 9/11.
Oh my God. And one other thing that I think is a little bit interesting to talk about were the entrance polls for Iowa. Now, granted, this was an extremely small turnout. I think it was 100,000 or something like that altogether, which is incredibly low.
Well, much like we didn't have an episode this last weekend because it snowed over a foot here.
Yeah.
And my power was out for 14 hours.
Holy crap.
On Friday
man.
night into Saturday
I
morning.
am sorry.
There was no way we were going to be able to get together and record. You had to dig out from all that snow, and then it was 20, 30 below with the wind chill after that. And those were not very far from Iowa here. Those same conditions are present there. Did keep a lot of people away from the polls. I don't know if you heard this soundbite. Again, we don't have it, but Donald Trump actually encouraged people to go out and vote, even if they died voting for Donald Trump. It would be worth it. In the primary, that Donald Trump has no chance of losing anyway.
But I also wanted to talk about some of these entrance polls because I think it can still tell us where the Republican base is. And according to these polls, and we'll link them in the show notes as well so you can actually see the whole thing. We're just going to talk about a couple here. The couple that I wanted to talk about the most were, first off, did Biden win the 2020 election legitimately? 30% of voters said yes, 65% of voters said no. Now, again, these are base Republicans who are willing to go stand out in the cold to vote for Donald Trump. There's probably a bit of a skew in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what makes you believe that the Iowa caucus results were valid?
Did you see some of the videos? Okay, again, we can talk about the caucuses and how shitty they are all day long. Maybe we do another episode about how crappy they are. But there was footage from the caucuses of just people who were just walking around with a little paper bag. Put your stuff in here. Put your stuff in. And they're just walking around. People are just randomly throwing pieces of paper in this bag. Oh yeah, this looks real legitimate, you guys.
Look at all those thumb drives.
Jesus Christ. But still, to have 2/3 of the Republican base firmly believe that Donald Trump was the winner of the 2020 election is baffling to me.
Well, did you see right below it the numbers for Trump voters, who 88% believe that Biden did not win legitimately in 2020.
Well, and that almost kind of makes sense, right? Where you're voting for Trump because you think that it was stolen from Trump. That makes sense. I'm concerned about the 23% who are not voting for Donald Trump and who still thinks that he didn't lose the election. The other one I wanted to talk about as well was, is Trump fit to be president if convicted of a crime? 64% said yes, 31% said no.
Well, he's already been found liable in a civil case for sexually assaulting someone, and the judge did say that it would be correct to call him a rapist.
Yes.
So we have a rapist running for president who has overwhelming support in the Republican Party. Of course, they don't care if he's convicted of more crimes.
Right. And what I really actually want to focus on specifically is the 31% that say no. And I happen to agree. There was lots of commentary from David Axelrod, who's a very well-known Democratic strategist and campaigner who's now retired. And he was talking about how if Joe Biden can just get some of those no's, and actually a lot of those people who were Nikki Haley supporters, who were saying if it was between Trump and Joe Biden, who would you vote for? A lot of those supporters who were supporting Nikki Haley would actually end up going to Joe Biden instead. That gives me a little bit of hope, even though this is insane. The fact that 64% of Republicans think that even after being convicted of a crime, they want him to be president.
Right.
That's insane. But from a strategic standpoint and from a little bit of a glimmer of hope, that could be a doorway where the Biden campaign could push through and say, you know what? I know I suck as a candidate. I know I'm old as hell, but
so is Donald Trump.
Man, it's so much worse if you go to Donald Trump. You know that. So just vote for me again, okay?
Well, and that also is what hamstrings the Republican Party. If he is convicted of a crime, he's not going to win the general election at that point. If he is in jail, and they are not going to be able to replace him as a candidate because enough of the Republican base will support him anyway and will be absolutely outraged if they try to remove him from the general election ballot and replace him with someone else.
Well, it'll be the same exact reason why he's leading now, where the fact, and lots of commentators were like, oh, I don't know what's going on. The more that, Trump is being indicted, the more press coverage he's getting about all his court cases, the more support he's getting. Well, yeah, because that's what everyone's talking about. And when you have 100% name recognition and you go in and you just constantly envelop the media cycle and have all discourse around you, that's what people are going to go towards. People are going to come home and support what they already know. And it's going to be the exact same thing again, where Donald Trump is probably going to be convicted based on these felony charges, and that's just going to enrage his base even more, who's going to want to support him more, and is going to completely destroy the Republican Party.
I believe so as well.
So what does this mean? And we kind of talked about this already, but what does this mean for the primary and the general so far? Well, we have New Hampshire coming up, and that is actually taking place in less than a week. That's taking place on January 23rd.
Next Tuesday.
Kind of what Jason already said is Nikki Haley's doing much better in New Hampshire, intentionally so, than she was in Iowa. And while she's still not predicted to win that race, she's in a much better shot to win New Hampshire than, say, Ron DeSantis, who's polling around 4% in New Hampshire.
There's at least a decent chance that
there's a much better chance that she can win.
Right. If not, pretty much be even with Trump. New Hampshire's always been kind of a different primary anyway.
Right. And she has to win.
There's more independent voters in New Hampshire than I think any other state.
Correct. And that's what she's going for as well. And I do know because there's been some funky stuff in New Hampshire because the DNC is not recognizing the New Hampshire primary. Lots of Democrats are becoming independents to vote in the Republican primary. So that's going to skew it even more as well. But we have to be clear here. This is a must win for Nikki Haley if she wants to do anything. And I don't think she really wants to win win. I don't think she's campaigning like she wants to win. I think she's kind of on her last leg as well. But if she doesn't win New Hampshire, it's game over already.
Right.
So who knows what's going to happen. Ron DeSantis is going straight to South Carolina to see how that's going to go there. I don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the only reason that anybody is still in the race is in the event that Donald Trump dies or goes to prison.
Or something.
And even if either of those things happen, I still don't think that they would win the nomination.
No. Oh, did you see Donald Trump's victory speech in Iowa?
I did not.
Our boy Doug Burgum was there.
Oh, boy.
He's endorsing Donald Trump now. And it was like weirdly the best speech I've seen from Donald Trump in a long time, where he had just casually called people on the stage to like talk about how great he was. He was nice to Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, although he's already like backtracked and all that now because he wasn't in the national spotlight anymore. He brought up like some guy like in a brick walled suit jacket and a MAGA hat to like, yeah, Trump's the best. It was weird, man.
I did see the Doug Burgum interview where Fox News anchor was asking him why he's supporting Donald Trump now when he said that he wouldn't even do business with him previously. And his response was, why does everyone always bring up that? I've said everything nice about him for the last 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Why is everyone asking me about like the one negative thing I said about him?
Well, and actually it was really funny because even in Trump's victory speech from Iowa, he even mentions Doug Burgum, like turns to him and say, hey, yeah, even Doug Burgum, someone who was running for president is now endorsing me. And he's a great guy. He does everything real well. He's a fantastic governor.
Look at them eyebrows.
And then he literally says, and he's going to make a great addition to my cabinet. I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, that's why you're endorsing him. Not that anyone cares about Doug Burgum.
Right. Oh, and you want to know what the best part is, Jason?
Oh, please tell me.
No more primary debates.
Yeah, the next debate was canceled.
Due to lack of interest from both Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, because Nikki Haley already said this is a two-person race, so why would she debate?
Right, Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis.
She's only going to show up if Donald Trump is there. He won't be there, because what would the point of that be? Hence, no debate. So at least we won't have to cover that.
Oh, thank God. So get ready, because next week we're talking about New Hampshire. And in other news, this is actually a little bit old, but I felt like we had to talk about it because we haven't already. Big news coming out of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has officially overturned the Republican-drawn legislative maps.
Corrupt Justice Janet Protasewicz, who prejudged this case already.
Oh, man. Oh, I thought you were on more than that.
That's it. What else? What more was there from the Republican
took money
state
from the
legislature?
Democrats.
And she took money from the Democratic Party.
Takeover of the Supreme Court that we've actually taken over for decades, but shut up. So in their ruling, they rejected the current maps based on constitutional grounds, contiguity. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry, no one else does either. Basically, contiguity means having districts that are separated by other districts and then continuing on as like little islands of the same district. To better illustrate this, I actually pulled up a story from another article about a state representative. His name is Jimmy Anderson. And here's what it says. If Wisconsin State Rep Jimmy Anderson wants to visit residents in some of the northern neighborhoods he represents, he must first leave his own district twice. From his Fitchburg home in suburban Madison, Anderson must exit his 47th Assembly District, pass through the 77th District, re-enter the 47th District, then head north through the 48th District to finally reach a cluster of homes assigned like a remote outpost to his district. And that sounds insane.
Right. The districts are not contiguous. You can't draw a circle neatly around them. You have, like you said, little islands here and there. And that has been the way it has been for quite a while.
Yes.
Obviously, this was the most legally sound argument to reject the current maps, which is why they went that way. The real reason is the maps were drawn specifically to favor Republicans, and they give Republicans an insurmountable advantage in state elections.
There was some actually fun reporting. I don't have the sources, unfortunately, back from like 2018, where you have leaked emails showing that Republicans and Republican candidates bragging about the fact that they were able to draw the maps so nicely that it favored them in safer districts. It's insane.
Yeah. Over the last 10, 15 years, Democrats have won pretty much every major election, and yet they still keep losing winning and losing seats in the state legislature.
To the point of a supermajority.
Yeah, one vote away from it.
Yeah, just in the assembly. They have it in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually another thing that the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled on, which is that the maps cannot heavily favor one party over another. So this is now an instance where we have a court taking a side on saying that partisan gerrymandering is not allowed and is unconstitutional, which, if you guys remember, our own SCOTUS said they weren't going to do that because they're idiots. I'm very happy that our state Supreme Court ruled to have much fairer maps for our state. And to go into a little bit about that as well, John Johnson, a research fellow of Marquette University, laid out an entire analysis of the maps that were actually submitted.
His parents were very, very creative. John Johnson. Good job.
And he did a full analysis of all the maps that were submitted for the court case by the Senate Democrats, the Senate Republicans, a couple of liberal groups who brought on the case, a conservative group, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and the governor. And this is what he found. Most maps will maintain Republican majorities, but they'll definitely make things more competitive. For example, all the plans that are more favorable to Democrats create a very tiny slim majority for Republicans. The most Democratic-leaning map is the one submitted by Law Ford, which would create, by Johnson's model, 49 Democratic seats to 50 Republican ones, and Democrats would need to win the state by only 3.3 points or a 51.65% majority in order to win an actual majority of the assembly. Unsurprisingly, the most Republican-leaning plan, the one submitted by the Wisconsin legislature, which is very, very Republican,
and it's very close to what we actually have currently,
created 35 Democratic seats to 64 Republican seats. And the Democrats would have to carry the state by 16.3 points to win the state majority in the assembly. And that is bonkers. And like you said, Jason, they have actually insisted on their least change approach and to keep the maps as much as they were.
Right. And you said that's bonkers. That is essentially what we have now.
It is. And our maps are bonkers.
Yes. Democrats win by 8-9% in the elections and they lose seats.
Yes. And what's interesting, and probably not by accident, besides the Republican legislature map, every other map submitted has multiple incumbents in the same district, leaving many other districts without any incumbents. 2 liberal map submissions would create either 17 or 19 districts without an incumbent. And if you think that's a liberal conspiracy, don't worry, because the map submitted by the conservative legal group Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, or WILL, and we've talked about them before, created 18 districts without an incumbent. And that's the conservative group.
And I guarantee you they're all in heavily conservative areas.
Right. That is a fantastic analysis for Democrats.
And it's what we all voted for Janet Protasiewicz for.
Yeah.
This and abortion were the 2 issues that Wisconsin voters went to the polls and by a very large majority voted for Janet Protasiewicz. And that leading to Republicans in the legislature threatening to impeach her is basically what sparked all the outrage from those same voters who not just I would say Wisconsin leans Democratic slightly.
Yes, I would agree with that.
But much larger number of people, so not just Democrats, but a significant portion of conservatives or independents as well, want fair maps and want access to abortion. So that obviously was not a popular plan that Republicans were pushing when they were saying they were going to impeach the just elected Wisconsin State Supreme Court Justice before she'd ever heard a case. There was enough pushback by the people of the state of Wisconsin against that, and a lot of anger and talks of recalling state officials and voting out anyone who supported it, that they basically showed that they were bluffing and stood down. And so this is part of the promise that was made. And honestly, currently, abortion, once again, is legal in the state of Wisconsin, and I'm hoping that soon we will get a court case to decide that and codify that in the future, shortly, hopefully.
And I'm going to be, now granted, these are all first draft submissions to the court. Most likely these are going to change, so take all these numbers with a grain of salt.
Ultimately, it will be the state Supreme Court that is going to decide this. I think, the governor's office and the legislature would have to agree?
Yes. Yes.
And that's never going to happen.
Correct.
So then it will go to the state Supreme Court to actually draw the new map.
Well, let's talk about what's going to happen next. So, next steps include the state Supreme Court will hire consultants to review the map submissions and release a full report of those maps by February 1st. So, only a couple weeks. One date to pay attention to is March 15th, which our state Supreme Court said all this has to be finalized by because specifically they need these maps done for the 2024 election. So, everything has to be done by March 15th. That's why everything's going to be expedited and go crazy for the next 2 months in Wisconsin. Upon receiving that report by February 1st, the state Supreme Court will then either choose maps to adopt based on whatever they want to do, or they can scrap the whole thing and turn to a nonpartisan consulting group to create their own maps. And then from there, probably Republicans are going to then appeal those maps.
Right. They'll sue. It'll go to the
Supreme Court.
The U.S. Supreme Court, who will probably just decline to hear the case, as they have many times in these situations in the past, because elections are handled individually by the states.
Right. And if they don't, then boy, are we going to have a story to talk about.
That will be a national story.
So good news for Wisconsin. Good news for the nation. We may have a bluer Wisconsin again.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous. Until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them. That's the goal. When you're totally turned off, they've won.
Boy, ain't right.
So in honor of the listeners that we have seen an increase in our listenership ever since you were on Serious Inquiries Only.
See, I'm putting in the work, man.
One thing that you brought up in that episode was that we are part of the problem, that we create polarization because we only present one side of the issue. We don't let conservative voices speak on our show, that we are both definitely biased and have an agenda. So I want to now have this is going to be the main segment. We are going to let conservative voices speak here. And let me tell you, a caravan is coming. And it threatens to destroy democracy as we know it. And the caravan is coming from inside the country, Joe.
Whoa, what a twist.
So buckle up as we bring you wall-to-wall coverage of the Caravan of Stupid.
That really seems like I need to add an extra bit of theme music to that.
We're gonna have some ominous music over that. It'll be nice. So we'll start off with frequent contributor to this segment, Jesse Waters, who brought on a guest that he referred to as the English Psychic to get a tarot card reading for some reason for Donald Trump.
And it does not go well.
Paula Roberts is the English psychic who is on set to give us a reading right now. I would like, Paula, for you to give me a reading on President Trump.
Just the one card?
One card.
One card. Let's do just one card. We like that one.
And I know you can't see it, because obviously we are an audio-only podcast. It is, and I don't know anything about tarot cards. I put no stock in it, but it is the 5 of Cups, which the picture is the Grim Reaper.
I'm looking it up. And according to Wikipedia, this card can carry a meaning of dejection, disappointment, and sorrow.
What is that?
I mean, I do recognize that I'm at Fox TV. I am a sense of loss. A sense of loss. But it's very specific. No, let me move on. It's a sense of loss. It's as if he may be thinking more about what he's lost and not still taking full advantage of what he still has.
That's a great interpretation,
It's
Paula.
true. It's true. I mean, I don't make it up.
Like, even Jesse Waters can't buy that spin.
I just uh-oh. And that's like my favorite part because, again, I don't know what Waters' team was doing with this person.
Why didn't they gimmick the cards?
Yeah, so you could have, this is tarot. You could do whatever you wanted. You could have just gone some hack and just say whatever you want and just rearrange the deck. It doesn't matter. It's made up. It's tarot.
And you still pull the Grim Reaper looking card.
And we don't have those other clips, but did you hear like how upset Jesse White was as like the segment goes on?
No, I did not.
Oh
listen
my
to
God.
The rest. I listened to exactly what we just listened to.
Okay, then I'm going to describe to you what happens because it's incredible. So then he goes, okay, how about Joe Biden? And then she continues and pulls another card and goes, oh, this card represents gain. Joe Biden's going to gain something.
Okay, so I did listen to that little bit, and he was like, oh, you mean money from China? Yeah.
And she goes, nah. Not monetarily. And then Jesse White continues and says, okay, how about America? Because we're going to do a tail reading for the entire country. And she goes, oh, this means that they're going to be really...
Was it a donkey? Because that's about the way this was going.
It basically says they're going to be really happy in 2024. Oh, incredible. Just incredible.
If only I believed any of that was true.
Oh, but that's the best part, Jason.
But why would you even have that segment?
I know.
It doesn't make any sense. And if you're going to have it, gimmick it.
Oh, man. It's just the best cell phone ever. Maybe we should start believing in tarot. That's
no thanks.
That's what I'm going to take away from this podcast. You listeners, if there's a takeaway, you should start believing in tarot immediately.
And we are not done with Jesse Waters yet. This story stemmed from last September. For National Voter Registration Day, Taylor Swift posted a message to her Instagram account that said, "Are you registered to vote yet? I've been lucky to see so many of you guys at my US shows recently. I've heard you raise your voices, and I know how powerful they are. Make sure you're ready to use them in our elections this year. Register to vote in less than 2 minutes at," and then gave the link, vote.org/National Voter Registration Day. Because of that...
That wicked woman. How dare you?
Vote.org said that they got 35,252 new registrations on that day, which were the most since 2020. It's not even the most ever, but the most that they've gotten since the last presidential election here. It was a 23% jump over the previous year, and the number of 18-year-olds registered was more than double the previous year.
So can we just actually pause, though, and say, that's fantastic.
Yes, and it's not, she didn't say you need to register to vote so that you can
vote Democrat
for Joe Biden or anything. It was just register to vote if you want your voices to be heard.
Yep, that's legitimately good.
Well, Jesse Waters had a former FBI agent on to discuss how this meant that Taylor Swift was a CIA operative and part of a PSYOP program.
I'm sorry, what?
Former FBI agent Stuart Kaplan joins us now. Stuart, is this feasible?
Jesse, the deployment of a PSYOP in the United States in this day and age is still illegal. The national security law prohibits the deployment of PSYOPs or using an operative for psychological warfare. However, if I was running Biden's management perception team, I would identify someone who would align themselves with my agenda, such as a Taylor Swift, who has close to 600 million followers. I would target her, I would engage her, and I would get her to do what we used to see as like public service announcements. And that type of enlistment, that type of solicitation is analogous to the old days of deployment of a PSYOP. And so in modern times, with these people having such influence and such, immeasurable amount of followers, she can potentially single-handedly swing voters because of just the amount of followers that she potentially can influence. So the answer is yes, Jesse.
Yeah, because when she posted the link to the vote.org, it's like hundreds of thousands of young Taylor Swift fans all of a sudden registered to vote. I wonder who got to her from the White House or from wherever.
Because Taylor Swift, being a woman, Joe, has no agency of her own.
What the hell was that, Jason?
She is a government agent.
I did not hear this before the episode. What is going on?
And if you're worried about us, dear listeners, just know that we are safe. We have our tinfoil hats on.
Yeah, Jason gave me my tinfoil hat. I'm good now.
We're going to need it for the rest of this segment as well. But yeah, Taylor Swift is a government agent. She can't just want people to register to vote on her own. She's a woman. She can't have her own thoughts. She has to be getting them from somewhere. and it's probably someone in the CIA or from the White House.
But Jason, my mind is blown right now.
And he also was also factually incorrect, as Fox News always is, and said that hundreds of thousands of Taylor Swift fans registered to vote after she posted that, which, as we just said, is nowhere near the real number, which was 35,000.
So, Jason, I've worked on campaigns before. I know what it's like to run different campaigns. I know what happens when presidential campaigns are doing this or that for the most part. The idea that a campaign would go to an influencer of some sort and have them get people to come out and vote, not even just in general, but to vote for them, is what campaigning is. That's not a psyop, Jason, and everyone does it.
Right.
What are we talking?
And I'm sure, someone from vote.org reached out to like her management team.
Yeah, I'm
and
absolutely
like 100 other ones too.
Right. I'm losing my mind because even at their worst thing, if the Biden campaign themselves went to Taylor Swift and said, I need you to help me win this election. Can you get people registered because I know you have liberal voters in your fan base? That's just campaigning. That's not a psyop. And it just makes me think, this guy was in our FBI. What was he doing in our FBI?
And he's been a frequent guest on Jesse Waters, so you can imagine.
Oh my God. And to make things even worse, because while you found that, I found the Unhinged Charlie Kirk podcast where they use this to just go off on Taylor Swift.
She's nasty. She's ugly. Nobody likes her. She looks like nobody likes her. She looks like a teenage boy. Like dudes don't like her. Like if you put her in front of like, she's ugly.
That's true. Yeah. Does Taylor Swift have any eggs left?
I don't think she probably. I don't know if she had it to start with.
No.
Grew up in the emo era.
Unhappy person because she knows that her body count is what it is. Her body count will have a museum and galleria dedicated to it at the end of her career. At this point, I can't even imagine probably the only reason that she doesn't speak out on the war in Ukraine is because she wants to get in on the baby factories there while they're still going because she doesn't really have any other chance.
She doesn't dress well at all. I mean, she dresses like super revealing. What is virtuous about her for young women to glean? Like date as many men as possible, complain all the time, ruin men's lives.
She hasn't started a family. She's in her mid-30s.
You have no kids. Like it's a terrible role model. If young women start dressing sluttier because of Taylor Swift, which makes their life miserable. Like when women dress like this,
I don't know if
100%. I'm telling you, it's like why are you dressing like that, Taylor Swift?
I think it's worse.
You're dressed like a stripper. So she's not leading people to God. She's leading them to wokeism, complaining on boyfriends, man hating. And she used to be a Christian. Yeah, I rest my case. Someone who like turns away from the faith and like pursues money, fame, and approval of the world. Good luck in eternity, Taylor.
She's a slut and she's going to hell.
And I can't trust because, again, audio medium, I totally get it. They have like pictures of what's going on while they're talking. And they have pictures of like Taylor Swift in dresses as they're talking about they're literally just like slut shaming, right? She's dressed like a stripper and a slut. She has one where she is like in one of those more revealing performance, like for an actual concert type of thing where it's like it kind of stops at your thigh types of outfits. Fine. Okay. That's a little bit more revealing. The others are like just straight up like dresses. They're not like anything crazy or anything like I can't even tell you how normal dresses they are. How dare you whore! You're gonna like show a shoulder. You are the worst.
Whore of Babylon.
These people.
Do you even have any eggs? What the hell was that? Something about Ukrainian baby factories?
The small dick energy that came from those are just off the charts.
She ruins Matt's life. We all know what her body count is.
What kind of role model are you?
I don't know what you're talking.
She's in her 30s and she doesn't have kids. She's the worst role model ever.
We all know how many men she's dated. No, we don't. You do. Apparently
you obsess over it all the time. Oh my God.
The only person I know that she's dated is Travis Kelce because they won't shut up about it on NFL broadcasts.
But again, can you just tell how Taylor Swift just gets under their skin by just merely existing? And let's be real here. These people are nobodies. They'll never care. We know about Charlie Kirk because we're crazy people. We have Jesse Waters playing because we're crazy people. But just to have an icon like Taylor Swift who's making real change with one Instagram Instagram post, yes, it wasn't the hundreds of thousands that Fox News thinks it was, but to have one Instagram post and have 35,000 people register to vote is huge and amazing. And these people simply cannot compete, and they are terrified. And I love every second of that.
And the next stop on the Caravan of Stupid includes all-stars Elon Musk and Tim Pool. So, as we've talked about previously, the new conservative boogeyman is DEI.
They changed the abbreviation.
It's not CRT anymore.
No.
Now it's DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion.
Or as Mark Levin says, more like DIE.
Oh,
die.
D. It means the. And it's a feminine the.
Oh, God. Oh,
German.
Jesus Christ. The moral decay of our society is crumbling before our eyes.
And conservatives are blaming DEI for an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 that had a panel blow out of the passenger compartment during flight. There were no injuries, but the plane did have to make an emergency landing.
So how did DEI make a door fall off?
Well, because clearly women and minorities don't know how to fix planes.
Oh, okay.
Elon Musk posted to his vanity company Twitter saying, "Do you want to fly in an airplane where they prioritize DEI hiring over your safety?" That is actually happening.
Oh, cool.
Why does he talk like a chatbot all of a sudden, too? Like he always, that is an actual fact. That is actually happening.
Don't you dare disrespect chatbots. They've come a long way, all right?
Elon Musk has one, and it went woke.
They do not talk as horribly robotic as Elon Musk does.
I know, they're still pretty bad.
Not that bad.
And Elon Musk dick rider Tim Pool raised the level of idiocy by claiming that it's all a conspiracy to get people to stop flying.
Oh, really? Okay. I'm going to put my
yeah, you need to put it
back on.
A section of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 was ripped from the plane mid-flight. Several cell phones flew out. A door panel, which wasn't actually used in this plane, they called it a door plug, was ripped out. That was the section. The plane was forced to engage in an emergency landing. Now, we've heard quite a bit about the Boeing 737 MAX 8, 9s, etc. They had crashed. There had been a couple crashes before, and so they were grounded. Now they're being grounded again. But there is something more sinister afoot, my friends. Recently, we heard a story about a United jet that suffered a hard landing, leaving Newark and heading to, I believe it was George Bush Airport, was in Texas. The hard landing basically destroyed the plane, nearly totaled it, causing severe damage to the body. It slammed down, bounced in the nose several times, and there are questions as to what happened. Now, according to Ashley St. Clair, there are questions, and I'm assuming this comes from a source, but she asks, was this related to a diversity hire? It may be the case. Boeing, of course, has heavily prioritized diversity. And then you take a look at some of these other stories that we have, and boy, it looks like we have a couple potential conspiracies afoot. I don't know if conspiracy is the right word, but more like agendas.
I looked up because I didn't know who Ashley St. Clair was. You know, she didn't cite any source, but I'm sure she had sources. She just said it. But she is a reporter.
Oh, no.
For the Babylon Bee.
Shut up. Shut the hell up. No, she is not.
She is the conservative satire, basically the conservative Onion.
Oh, my God.
And that's who Tim Pool, I'm sure she had sources.
So how
this is because of a diversity hire, that the plane was damaged upon landing.
Okay.
That clip was edited. He rambles on about his own vacation in Alaska recently and some stuff that I cut out because it's not very necessary.
I wanted to know, but okay.
Well, it would have made it very long, and I'm really sick of listening to Tim Pool. I'm not done because he gets even more stupid after this, but I wanted to give us a little bit of a break.
Is that possible?
And I wanted to at least bring up the Ashley St. Clair thing because that was ridiculous.
Okay.
And at least explain that in between here.
I'm clenching. I'm ready.
And same with the next clip. I did cut out some bits that were not relevant. He talks about the cost of private jets going up and like saying to his audience, like, as I'm sure many of you are aware, nobody knows about private jet prices, Tim. Who the hell do you think your listeners are? He like cries about that because, again, it's all part of this conspiracy to get people to stop flying.
All right. Let's hear it. I'm ready.
Global Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Strategy. Getty. GEDI. Sure. And what does this turn into? They hire people based on race instead of merit. That's what they do. And then you get people who, based on the lack of merit, can't properly design a plane or fix it, and those planes crash or the infrastructure crumbles. And that's where we are. The Alaska 737 cockpit voice recorder data was erased. Erased. How does this happen? Now, this one has a lot of people yelling conspiracy. Something happened. What was really going on? We don't know. It could just be, and I'll keep it simple, diversity. That's it. When you prioritize diversity over meritocracy, this is what you get. It could also be with the lockdowns that happened and all the retirees, all the people retiring, these companies are desperate to hire anyone they can. The only problem is we are crumbling as a human society. The people they hired can't do the jobs. And these extremely technical devices that carry hundreds of souls, they're faulty and they fail. And now how many people are going to say, I don't want to fly if this is the case? The cockpit voice recorder data on the Alaskan Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9, which lost a panel mid-flight, was overwritten, U.S. authorities said, renewing attention on an industry call for longer in-flight recordings. The National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Hamady said on Sunday no data was available in the cockpit voice recorder because it was not retrieved within 2 hours when recording restarts, erasing previous data. Interesting. I wonder, could this door have blown out due to pilot error? And because of the pilot error, they intentionally made sure that nothing got recorded? Could have, look, I don't know. Maybe there was something wrong with the pressurization settings. I don't know how these planes work. Maybe the pilot did something wrong, which resulted in the door panel blowing off. And then the co-pilot's like, what did you do? Did you press this? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, no. Quick, erase it. And we'll call it all just whoopsie daisy. I think it's diversity.
Okay, Jason.
I think it's diversity.
Wait, hang on.
There was a lot to talk about.
Hang on. I think he's right, though. Hear me out. I think he's right.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe Tim Pool is correct and accurate when he says he has no idea how these planes work.
The pilot clearly pressed the eject the side of the plane button.
Why would this be a pilot issue? I mean, okay.
Maybe they turned the pressure up in the cockpit to the point where it blew
off. What?
Like people's heads would be exploding.
Oh my God. It'd be like that one. Oh, I'm going to give away potential spoilers in The Boys where it's like the head popper. It's just like the head popper. It's poof, doof,
or
doof, doof.
You could go to Scanners, the 80s version of that, the head exploding.
I guess so. Okay.
But yes, Tim Pool is so stupid.
Oh my God.
He is the example of someone in a position of privilege that he does not deserve at all, but he believes that our country is based on meritocracy.
He even did and I don't even know if he's playing up to it or not at this point because he's so dumb. He even did the meme of saying something really stupid and then just go, interesting.
And he asks the question of how did the data recorder get erased, answers his own question, and then pretends like he didn't say it. Because it's only got a 2-hour record time. They've been pressing for longer recording times, but because that costs money, the airlines won't do it. And he blames it on diversity.
Not capitalism.
And that's also like, why don't these airlines take better look at these planes and get all these issues fixed? Because it costs money and that's all about making profits. That's the reason. It's not because they're hiring minorities and women.
But Jason, there's souls on these planes.
There's no way that minorities can fix planes.
Well, okay, so let's talk about the actual thing he's trying to get at here, which is exactly what you're saying. And that's what everyone tries to talk about when they try to bash DEI and they want to go for a merit-based system, is that they're trying to tell you people of color do not deserve the positions that they're in.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
The only way they ever get any power, authority, success in life is because some white man gives it to them.
Correct. Correct. And a fantastic example of this.
And for every person of color, minority, woman in a position of power, privilege, authority, there's a more deserving straight white man who lost out.
Correct. It's all identity politics. Hoo-yah! And you can learn more about identity politics in my episode with Serious Inquiries Only. But a really good example is, and I know this is like an old example, is Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? Where
affirmative action hire Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yes. Where she is by far one of the most qualified justices to sit on that bench right now. Not like just from an objective standpoint, from a resume perspective, she is.
And the most diverse thing about her being in the Supreme Court is the fact that she was a defense attorney. That's the most diverse thing about Ketanji Brown Jackson being on the Supreme Court. Not the fact that she's a woman, not the fact that she's black, the fact that she was a defense attorney.
But you hear this crap all the time. What do you even think? What does Tim Pool even think Boeing is doing during the hiring process? I want the woman over there, even though she can't do anything.
Right. So they interview like 5 well-qualified, like MIT graduates that are all white men, and they just can't. They're like, oh, you're so qualified for this. You're the perfect. You built a perfect airplane during the interview process from scratch. Just took like the chairs and stuff that was in the office and built a working airplane right here on my desk. But I just can't hire you because
we got Ashley sitting in the next room.
Yeah,
man. We really need Ashley.
Right. And you know, there was a black guy in here before you, and if I don't hire him, then my woman boss is gonna fire me.
Don't worry, Ashley's got an English lit degree. She'll be just fine.
Right. That's what conservatives and people like Tim Pool think.
Apparently, I can't imagine. I mean, granted, let's be real here. They have no actual rationale for their thinking. It's just they feel that they're being attacked because they are white men. That's all it is.
The real oppressed people in American society.
Yeah.
Because of the woke agenda.
I feel oppressed because I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to work on an airplane.
and I
am a white man, so I feel like I deserve to be able to work on an airplane.
Right. Where's my engineering job at Boeing?
Yeah. Oh, that should have been
following Bill Nye's footsteps.
That should have been the hashtag. Just like a bunch of white guys like, "Where's my job at Boeing?"
And to save you from the perils of listening to Tim Pool any longer. And by the way, I cut out so much like tongue clucking and lip smacking that he did. Like, he is such more like they hired black people. Diversity. It was so annoying. I cut that out for you guys because that's just ridiculous. But it's infuriating listening to this guy. He's so stupid and yet so smug.
I'm telling you.
And he says that other people are not qualified for their positions. Like, the irony should like make his beanie spin on his bald head.
Man, I tell you, I don't know what it is. We listened to Jesse Wires, we've listened to Tucker Carlson, we've listened to Elon Musk.
Candace Owens.
We're going to listen to Matt Walsh in just a little bit.
Matt Walsh.
And they are all good
Ben
examples.
Shapiro.
Right. And they're all good examples of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Great examples of that, right? Super high confidence, have absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
And Tim Pool is still by far the worst.
I don't know what it is about Tim Pool, but he just gets under my skin like no one's business. Just like how smug he is and how stupid he is while he's
how
so
wrong
damn smug he is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But he did go on to outline how this is all part of a wide-ranging plot run by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Where is this going?
As part of her Green New Deal.
What?
She is single-handedly crippling the airline industry and preventing the world from traveling by plane.
Oh, okay.
And just to remind everyone, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could not even get Nancy Pelosi to bring up the Green New Deal bill for a vote in the Democrat-controlled House. But yet she is somehow manipulating the entire airline industry.
Well, okay, and my first thought was Tim Pool is the exact kind of person who would also run up to AOC and say, "Oh, so you want the Green New Deal, but have you taken a plane recently?"
Right.
Like,
have you eaten a cheeseburger?
We've seen that argument so many times, which is, oh, you think we should do something about climate change, but you're taking airplanes? That was like the big thing with like Greta Thunberg, right? When she was going to that one summit like all those years ago, and she rode a plane to get there, and they're like, "Ooh, why aren't you taking it by a ship? Because you're all about climate change and global warming." These are the exact same people who also think that we're going to also stop the airline industry. The people who are also partaking in said industry. You morons! Oh, and finally, we need to talk about the Stanley Cups.
And not a hockey reference.
Nope, not the hockey reference.
I learned about this recently.
Did you now?
Yes, I had no idea.
You're so late to it because you're a guy.
Yeah, I have a Stanley socket set out in the garage.
Oh.
Maybe I can sell it online, paint it pink or something.
Oh, dude, that'd be great. Also, like, fun thing, if I remember to put these in the show notes, actually I will. I just listened to a Washington Post podcast, the Journal episode, about like where these cups like came from and why they're such a craze. And it's actually like a very interesting little case study in marketing. So I highly recommend it.
Well, the whole thing really, like, as far as when it exploded, was a viral video online of someone whose car somehow got set on fire.
Yeah.
And there was like
the Stanley Cup was in
the
there.
inside of the interior of the car's all charred up.
Yep.
But their Stanley tumbler is not only still somewhat intact, but there was still ice in the cup. But then the Stanley company responded to that post because it blew up and went viral. And they not only gave her a bunch of Stanley stuff, but they also bought her a
car.
new car.
Yeah.
Right. So then that went super viral, and
they started targeting that towards women and put the Stanley Quencher into a bunch of like different colors.
Yeah, pastel and limited editions and collabs and all this stuff that really made it take off.
Right. So anyway.
And it was a big story recently. They released a new edition of their cup, and they were like, it was in Targets, and they were just selling out instantly. People were...
There was like TikToks about it.
And people were like camping out like hours and hours before the store opened, like it was a new iPhone.
Yeah, basically.
So that's when I saw those news stories.
Right. So I'll put that out there. My fiance does not have a Stanley Cup. She has a Yeti. It's the same thing, but just a different
Bougie.
brand. Yeah. But we're not here to talk about all that story. We're here to talk about Matt Walsh talking about Stanley Cups, because apparently, according to Matt Walsh,
baby fetish enthusiast Matt Walsh,
guys who are buying Stanley Cups for their wife early
as Valentine's Day presents
are really gay. Let's listen.
In the history of Valentine's Day, there has never been a Valentine's Day gift purchased by a man for a woman on January 3rd. It's never happened. Okay. In fact, I'll say this. No man in history has ever purchased a Valentine's Day gift before February 11th. And if you do that, I mean, look, I've had a few, I don't want to brag. I've had a few Valentine's Day occasions where I have actually purchased my gift on, I've never done, but like February 12th. I've had a few February 12ths where I went and I purchased the gift, and I'm like, wow, I'm the greatest husband ever that it's 2 days ahead of time, and I'm out here buying a gift already. But of course, 97% of us are buying the Valentine's Day gift on the way home from work on February 14th. But buying a Valentine's Day gift for your wife a month early is the gayest thing you could do. Don't do that, because if it's January 3rd and you tell your wife, I got you Valentine's Day gift already, she's going to say, so you're gay. Well, that kind of ruins Valentine's Day, doesn't it?
Makes me think of that one meme. Fellas, does buying your wife a Valentine's gift make you gay?
Sorry, I don't know that one.
It's because you're old.
I am old. Yeah, I don't know, man. What is wrong with Matt Walsh? If you are thoughtful and go out of your way to get your wife something that she wants that is going to be in limited supply, and there's like this super huge run on it, that's really gay. You are a homosexual. You really want to have sex with men. What?
Well, and I also just love...
As he's probably just picturing him dressed up as a baby in his head the whole time.
And I just love the little self-report there where it's like, yeah, I don't give a rip at all about giving anything for my wife on Valentine's Day.
And I will confess, look, both me and my wife do not care about Valentine's Day. Like, we generally don't do anything for Valentine's Day, and that's fine. Yeah. So apparently, I am way more manly than Matt Walsh.
I don't even celebrate.
Matt Walsh is a gay baby.
But seriously though, like I completely agree with you though, because if you have an understanding with your partner that yeah, okay, Valentine's Day is a materialistic commercial holiday, and
it's not even like that. It's just.
But I'm saying, like, fine, who cares?
We're very comfortable in our relationship. We don't really
need to buy gifts, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
That's perfectly fine. That's not what Matt Walsh is saying. He's saying, I give so little shits about my wife that I'm going to, I'm supposed to give her flowers on the way home.
If you care about your wife, then you're gay. That makes you gay. If you care, if you have, like, you need to do something for Valentine's Day because it's an important holiday in your relationship.
You just got to get the ball and chain something.
Then just stop at the gas station on the way home from work and you got to pick up the Russell Stover's assortment. That's what men do. If you actually put thought into it,
and
you might as well, suck some dude off in the bathroom of that gas station then.
And don't forget the grocery store bouquet of roses for $11.99. I don't get it, man. Like, there's hyper masculinity and then there's this.
Yeah, and you know what Matt Walsh wants for Valentine's Day. That's his diaper and his baba.
Also, other weird fact that I kind of noticed, and I'm sure this is not anything new to people who are sadly familiar with Matt Walsh, he does every episode in a flannel.
Because that's what real men do. Tucker Carlson does the same thing.
Oh.
Ben Shapiro does the same thing when he's trying to be extra manly. Ted Cruz does the same thing. It is like the conservative uniform for expressing your manliness.
Oh, God. It's gross. Matt Walsh is gross.
And does not care about his wife at all. She is an accessory.
Could you imagine being Matt Walsh's wife? That sounds terrible.
It's a bad job.
I don't know what would be worse, being Matt Walsh's wife or Ben Shapiro's wife.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a rough one.
Where I have to sit for like a 30-minute lecture about why I should be doing the laundry from Ben Shapiro, or I used to live in constant fear that I'm going to get beaten by Matt Walsh all day long.
Yeah, well, we saw it with Steven Crowder, right? Those guys do not have good relationships.
Ugh. God. But we did it. We have survived the caravan of stupidity.
We've made it to the final stop. So once again, welcome to our new listeners. We are also fans of Thomas Smith, and we are essentially responsible for him visiting Milwaukee way more times than he ever wanted to.
I thought you were going to make a really bold move and say we are also responsible for like him glowing up at his career. I'm like, what a power move.
We did see him at his first ever conference, and we're like organizers. Unfortunately, we don't talk about those days. Of his first ever conference appearance, I had the pleasure of inviting him, which is now not so much of a pleasure when I think back on it, but he attended a humanist conference.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's all your
Sargon
fault.
thing, that's me.
All your fault.
For all of you Thomas Smith fans, I'm sorry. That was all my fault.
Oh, no. You're right. You were also responsible for Tom and Cecil, too.
No, that was not me.
You introduced
so
Tom and Cecil to the
I
group?
started the whole,
Yeah.
we need to start talking to other atheist podcasters in the Mythos Milwaukee days.
Oh, you said it.
Well, I
said
mean,
the name.
they'll figure it out. But yes, but I did not invite them and then say they were coming when they did not agree to it.
No, that was not
that
you.
conference. That wasn't me.
But you introduced them.
Yeah, and their one appearance on that podcast was also... That's when I was producing that show.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's how I started actually listening to Cognitus too.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, so I have you to thank for that. But thank you very much, everybody. Tune in for the next episode because we're going to have a real fun one for you. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening. We hope to see you in the next episode. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at ThinkProPod. You can email us at thinkpropod@gmail.com. And remember, when in doubt, think progressively.
I'll take Christopher Reeve Superman over any iteration of Batman all day, every day.
Yeah, is that the newest one? Was that the one that was
my God.
I don't know any of the new Supermans.
Christopher Reeve is the late 70s, 80s.
Oh, he's like,
Superman. The one that got paralyzed in a horse accident.
Okay. Not the really, really crappy ones from
not the Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Those suck.
That's Henry Cavill.
Oh, he was. You're right. Before he did anything good.
And also, if you're going to criticize Superman in those movies, Batfleck is way worse.
Oh my God.
Why'd you say that name?
But can we at least agree from a story, engaging story standpoint, it's way more interesting to watch a Batman story or any other superhero story except for maybe Aquaman.
I don't know. Superman with his power scaling is an issue, something that happened over time. But to me, it's still even at that power level, that you can still come up with things for him to be challenged by. Batman doesn't have a kryptonite.
I can't think of anything that would challenge Superman.
There shouldn't be. I agree with you.
That's the point.
Competent writers are able to do that and still have a compelling story of overcoming the odds and being, even with that much power, still looking out for everyone else, even though essentially nothing can harm you and he could just do whatever he wanted.
I feel like we need to do a Superman is propaganda episode and how
it has been interpreted that
and you
way.
are completely brainwashed of poor writing as a good story for a superhero. Now here's the thing.
All right, Frank Miller.
Now here's the thing. I will also say I respect Superman just like I respect the Beatles in music. Where not a lot of people like the Beatles, but you have to respect them.
Not a lot of people like the Beatles.
Okay, not a lot of my friends like the Beatles. I like the Beatles. You're right.
Not a lot of hipsters like the Beatles because they're so mainstream.
No, it would be the hipsters that like the Beatles, wouldn't it? Because now they're kind of old and retro.
So now they're counterculture because
or something.
It's more mainstream to hate them because your grandparents were really into them.
I have no idea. Anyway, a lot of people don't like the Beatles because whatever. But I love the Beatles, but I respect what they had to do with the music scene back in that time because they were literal innovators of what happened. I see Superman very similar to that, where it's sure, he's very basic as far as what a power superhero would be. He's just an all buffed guy that can just beat up anything all over, no matter what.
Unlike Batman, who, as we know, is very skinny and loses every fight.
But he's smart, all right?
Ugh.
And he uses gadgets.
Again, he could just solve every problem in Gotham through social programs. Instead, he tries to punch
He's still a Republican, all right? We gotta be aware of that. If you listen to our polarization episodes, you would understand where Bruce Wayne is coming from.